A billionaire pretended to lose his sight to judge his stand-in bride never meant to fall for her. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. Rain drifted across the skyline of New York City, coating the windows of the private penthouse in a thin silver sheen. Inside, the lights were dimmed low, warm against the cold evening. The space was quiet, except for the soft tapping of a cane against the marble floor. Ethan Ward, the billionaire CEO of Ward Technologies, stood by the glass wall overlooking Manhattan. His posture was calm, controlled, almost too steady for a man who claimed he could barely see. The cane rested loosely in his hand, more like a prop than a necessity. Across from him, a nervous young woman stepped out of the elevator. Her name was Lily Hart. She clutched her worn handbag tightly, her breath unsteady as she took in the opulence around her. She had never stepped foot inside a place like this, not even in her wildest dreams. The ceiling was so high it reminded her of a cathedral, and the floor-to-ceiling windows made her feel as though she were floating above the entire city. "Miss Hart," Ethan said, his voice low and even. "Thank you for coming." Lily swallowed hard. "Your assistant said it was urgent." "It is." Ethan turned slightly, his gaze angled in her direction but not quite aligned. It was the flawless performance of a man who had convinced the world he had lost most of his sight. "Please. Sit." Lily hesitated before lowering herself onto the edge of an expensive leather chair. Her hands trembled in her lap. She was aware of her discount store shoes, her coat still damp from the rain, and the faint scent of the diner she had run from after her shift. Everything about her felt small in this cathedral of glass and money. Ethan walked toward her with measured steps, each one calculated. He stopped at the table between them and placed a thin folder on the surface. Inside the folder was a contract, neat, stark, and heavy with consequence. "I will be direct," Ethan said. "My family expects me to be married before the board meeting next month. They believe it will stabilize investor confidence after my sudden medical condition." Lily's eyes widened. "I am sorry, what does that have to do with me?" "You resemble the woman who was originally chosen for the role," Ethan replied. "She decided to withdraw at the last minute. My assistant saw you outside the building and recognized the similarity." Lily blinked in disbelief. "You need a stand-in bride." "Yes." She stared at him. It felt like a joke, or a scam, or a dream she would wake from in a few minutes. "Mr. Ward, you do not even know me." "That is irrelevant," Ethan said calmly. "What matters is that you can follow instructions. The marriage will be legal. The arrangement will last 1 year. You will be compensated generously, and all obligations will be clearly outlined." He slid the folder toward her. Her fingers hovered over it, afraid to touch. "Why me? Why not someone from your world?" Ethan's jaw tightened ever so slightly. "Because someone from my world would try to take advantage of the situation. I need someone who does not want my company, my influence, or my fortune." Lily's breath caught. She looked down at her hands, her nails uneven from long hours at work. She thought of her father's overdue hospital bills, the rent notice taped to her apartment door, the ache in her chest every time she imagined losing everything. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" she whispered. Ethan tapped the cane lightly against the floor. "Attend public events with me, play the role convincingly, follow the terms, and uphold the appearance of a supportive spouse." "And your eyesight?" she asked. Ethan paused for a beat. "That will not interfere." She did not know it yet, but those 4 words would ignite the greatest conflict of her life. As thunder rumbled over the city, she lifted the folder with shaking hands. Inside lay the price of her freedom, her survival, and the beginning of the most dangerous lie Ethan Ward had ever constructed. He extended his hand. "The choice is yours, Miss Hart." Her heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the sound of the rain. And in that moment, standing inside a world she did not belong to, Lily Hart realized she had only 2 options left: walk away and lose everything, or step into a marriage built on secrets, power, and a truth she had not discovered yet. She took a breath, and the city held its own. Lily left the penthouse with the contract pressed tightly against her chest. The elevator doors closed around her, and the moment the metallic hum began to pull her downward, her breath finally escaped in a long, shaking exhale. Her heart thudded painfully, as if it were trying to climb out of her ribs. New York's cold air hit her the second she stepped onto the street. Cars rushed through puddles, spraying mist onto the sidewalks. The lights of Midtown blurred through the rain as she hurried toward the subway, her mind spinning with the weight of what had just happened. A stand-in bride, a legal marriage, a billionaire who claimed to have lost his sight, and money. More money than she could imagine. But reality hit harder when she reached her apartment building. The hallway lights flickered as she climbed the worn staircase to the third floor. A bright orange eviction notice was taped across her door, the paper wrinkled from earlier rain. She pulled it off slowly, her stomach dropping as she read the date. She had 48 hours. Inside, the apartment was dim and small, barely large enough for a bed, a plate rack, and the tiny table where she kept her bills stacked in uneven piles. She turned on the lamp, and the yellow bulb glowed weakly, revealing envelopes she already feared reading. The first one was from the hospital. Her father's treatment required a payment that was impossible for her to meet. The second envelope came from the electric company. The third was from the landlord. All of them carried deadlines that had already passed. She sank onto the edge of the bed, the contract folder still in her hands. She opened it again, her eyes tracing the clauses with a mix of fear and disbelief. Everything was listed clearly, almost too clearly. 1 year, public appearances, a convincing marriage, generous payment, no emotional obligations. It was cold. It was transactional. It was survival disguised as a deal. Her phone vibrated on the nightstand. She answered quickly. "Lily? It is the hospital," the nurse said gently. "Your father's oxygen levels dropped again tonight. The doctor wants to adjust his treatment, but we need the payment to move forward." Lily closed her eyes, the room tilting slightly. "I understand. I will find a way." She hung up before her voice could break. The rain intensified outside, tapping against the thin window like fingertips. She stood, pacing the tiny space, every step echoing with the same truth. She was out of time. She remembered the way Ethan Ward had stood before her, composed and unreadable, as if nothing touched him. His voice had been steady when he said he needed control, stability, loyalty. He had spoken like a man accustomed to the world bending around him, but he had also said something else, something that lingered like a quiet echo. "I need someone who does not want my company, my influence, or my fortune." He had chosen her not because she was qualified, not because she was impressive, but because she had nothing. And somehow, that made her exactly what he needed. She returned to the table, placed the contract down, and smoothed the pages with trembling fingers. Every cell in her body screamed that this was dangerous. But every problem in her life insisted that this was the only door left open. She lifted the pen Ethan had placed inside the folder. She held it above the signature line, her hand shaking. Her father needed treatment. She needed a home. And the world had left her without choices. With a long, steady breath, Lily closed her eyes. Then she signed her name. In that quiet, cramped apartment with the leaking window and flickering light, the ink settled into the paper like the beginning of a new life, one she could not turn back from. The next morning arrived with a gray sky hanging low over New York, heavy with mist that clung to the buildings like a veil. Lily barely slept. The contract lay on the small table beside her bed, the ink of her signature still sharp and dark. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the number at the bottom of the agreement and the image of her father lying in a hospital bed. By 8 o'clock, she gathered her courage, slipped on her cleanest blouse, and left her apartment. The subway rattled beneath the city, carrying her toward a future she could not fully grasp. Her hands were cold as she pressed them together, her mind repeating the same sentence over and over. This is the only way. When she stepped inside the lobby of Ward Technologies, the air changed. Everything felt polished, efficient, and intimidating. Employees in tailored suits swept past her with quick strides, barely glancing at the young woman with the worn handbag and anxious eyes. Marble floors gleamed beneath the lights, and a giant screen displayed news of the company's upcoming board meeting. The receptionist looked up with a professional smile. "Good morning. How may I assist you?" Lily swallowed. "I am here to see Mr. Ethan Ward. He is expecting me." The receptionist typed quickly, then nodded. "Yes, Miss Hart. Top floor. The assistant will meet you there." The elevator doors closed, rising smoothly toward the upper levels. Lily watched her reflection in the mirror panels. She looked out of place, as if she had stepped into the wrong life. But when the elevator chimed and the doors opened, she forced her shoulders back. Ethan's assistant, a sharp-featured woman named Clara, greeted her. "Right this way, Miss Hart." Clara's heels clicked across the polished floor as she led Lily to the glass office at the end of the corridor. The room looked more like an art gallery than a workspace, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city and minimalist decor arranged with precision. Ethan Ward stood near the window, cane in hand, dressed in a charcoal suit that contrasted sharply with the pale light outside. He turned his head slightly when he heard the door open. "Miss Hart," he said, his voice steady. "You are on time." Lily approached the desk and placed the signed contract before him. Her fingers brushed the wood surface, cold and smooth like stone. "I read everything carefully," she said quietly. "I am ready to proceed." Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable. "Very well." He opened the folder, his fingertips tracing the edge of the paper in a deliberate motion. Although he maintained the appearance of someone with impaired vision, Lily sensed an unwavering precision in the way he handled each page. "You understand the expectations," he said. "Once we begin, there is no room for error. Public appearances must be convincing. The marriage must appear real. You will move into my residence today so we can prepare before the board meeting." Her breath caught. "Move in today?" "Yes," Ethan replied. "There is no time to delay." Clara stepped forward with a tablet in hand. "Miss Hart, I will assist you with the transition. Your belongings will be transported to the Ward estate. A stylist will meet with you this afternoon to prepare for tonight's ceremony." Lily felt the air thicken around her. "Tonight?" Ethan's voice softened by a fraction. "The sooner our arrangement is secured, the safer both of us will be." She did not know what safe meant for a man like Ethan Ward, but the way he said it made her pulse quicken. There was something beneath the surface of his calm exterior, something unspoken, something shaped by power, pressure, and secrets she could not see. Clara handed Lily a small envelope. "This contains your schedule for the next week, your new access identification, and instructions for your responsibilities." Lily accepted it with both hands, her palms damp. Ethan closed the folder and placed the pen beside it. "From this point forward, you are my wife in the eyes of the public. Every gesture, every word, and every appearance will reflect that. Do you understand?" Lily nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I understand." Ethan turned his head toward her, the faintest shift in his expression revealing something she could not name. "Then let us begin." The city stretched endlessly behind him, a landscape of glass and ambition. And Lily Hart stepped across the threshold into a life ruled by contracts, secrets, and the man who had chosen her for reasons she did not yet comprehend. Lily followed Clara through the pristine hallways of Ward Technologies, feeling as if the ground beneath her feet had transformed into something unsteady. The enormity of what she had agreed to began settling coldly into her bones. Each step echoed the same thought. There is no turning back now. Outside, a black town car waited near the entrance. The driver stepped out and opened the door with a respectful nod. "Miss Hart, Mr. Ward requested that you be brought to the estate immediately." Lily lowered herself carefully into the back seat. The interior smelled faintly of leather and cedar, a scent she had never associated with her own world. As the car pulled away from the curb, Manhattan's towers blurred into streaks of gray and silver. The farther they drove, the more the city's noise faded, replaced by the quiet hum of the engine. Clara sat beside her, tapping notes into her tablet. "We will arrive at the estate in about 40 minutes. When we get there, you will meet with the stylist team. They will prepare you for the ceremony and all future media events. Afterward, you will be shown to your living quarters." "Living quarters?" Lily repeated softly. "Yes," Clara said without looking up. "Your suite is located across the east wing. Mr. Ward's room is separate." The arrangement is designed to maintain privacy while preserving the appearance of a shared residence. Lily nodded, though her nerves twisted. The idea of living in a billionaire's home felt unreal, like she was stepping into someone else's story. The city gave way to quieter neighborhoods, and eventually, they reached a long, gated driveway lined with towering oak trees. The iron gates opened slowly as the security system recognized the car. Lily stared out the window, her breath catching as the Ward estate emerged in full view. The mansion rose like a monument of white stone and glass, surrounded by manicured lawns and distant gardens. Water cascaded from a fountain at the entrance, reflecting the soft afternoon light. The car rolled to a stop. Clara gestured for her to step out. "Welcome to your new home, Miss Hart." Lily's shoes touched the smooth stone of the driveway, and for a moment she could not move. The scale of the estate overwhelmed her. Everything felt quiet, controlled, and far from the chaotic world she came from. Inside, the foyer stretched open with high ceilings and marble floors. A chandelier glowed overhead, scattering warm light across the room. Staff members bowed their heads slightly as she passed, their expressions polite but unreadable. Clara guided her to a suite on the east side of the mansion. The door opened to a room larger than her entire apartment, with a king-sized bed, a private balcony, and a walk-in closet filled with empty hangers waiting to be filled. "This will be your space," Clara said. "You may arrange it as you wish. A team will deliver your belongings shortly." Lily nodded slowly, trying to absorb everything. "Thank you." Clara handed her a small white card. "Here is tonight's schedule. The ceremony will take place at 7 o'clock in the private study. Only Mr. Ward, his attorney, and the officiant will be present." Lily's stomach tightened. "That soon?" "Yes," Clara replied. "The board meeting is in 3 days. The marriage must be finalized before then." Footsteps echoed from the hall. Lily turned as Ethan Ward appeared, tall and composed, dressed in a navy suit that sharpened the angles of his shoulders. His cane tapped lightly against the floor as he approached, maintaining his careful performance. "Miss Hart," Ethan said, his tone as calm as ever. "I trust the transition is going smoothly." Lily tried to steady her voice. "It is a lot to take in." "That is expected," Ethan replied. "You will have everything you need here. Tonight's ceremony will be brief, but significant." Lily held his gaze, studying the controlled expression on his face. She wondered how a man who seemed carved from stone could need someone like her to complete his world of power. Ethan inclined his head slightly. "Prepare yourself, Miss Hart. After tonight, everything changes." Then he turned and disappeared down the hall, leaving her standing in a life she had agreed to enter but could not yet understand. The sun lowered beyond the trees, casting long shadows across the floor. The countdown to the marriage had already begun. The hours leading up to the ceremony passed in a blur. Lily could hardly remember how many people came in and out of her suite. A team of stylists arrived, carrying garment bags and sleek black cases filled with makeup brushes, hair tools, and unfamiliar products that smelled like orchids and warm vanilla. They moved around her with professional efficiency. One person curled her hair into soft waves. Another applied makeup that made her features sharper and more defined. When they zipped her into the elegant ivory dress chosen for the evening, Lily barely recognized the woman staring back at her in the mirror. She looked polished, refined, and impossibly out of place. A soft knock sounded on the door. Clara stepped inside. "Miss Hart, it is time." Lily nodded, though her legs felt weak. She followed Clara through quiet hallways lit by soft golden sconces. The deeper they walked into the mansion, the more the atmosphere shifted. Everything felt heavier, as if the walls themselves understood the significance of the night. When they reached the private study, the double doors stood partially open. Warm light spilled onto the marble floor. Inside, she saw a wooden desk, shelves lined with leather-bound books, and large windows overlooking the darkened gardens. Ethan Ward stood near the center of the room. He wore a black suit that made his posture appear even more commanding. His cane rested lightly in his hand, completing the illusion of a man who moved cautiously through the world. He turned toward her voice, his expression unreadable. "Miss Hart." For a moment, Lily forgot how to breathe. There was something different about him tonight, something steadier and more focused, as if he had stepped fully into the role he needed to play. The officiant cleared his throat gently, If the two of you are ready, we will begin. Lily took her place beside Ethan. Their shoulders almost touched. She could feel the heat of him, a contrast to the cold flutter in her chest. When the officiant opened the marriage documents, his voice carried through the quiet room. Ethan Ward, do you take Lily Hart to be your lawfully wedded wife? Ethan's reply came without hesitation. I do. The words were simple, but they landed with a weight that made Lily's heartbeat stumble. And Lily Hart, do you take Ethan Ward to be your lawfully wedded husband? Lily inhaled slowly. She thought of her father in the hospital, the eviction notice taped to her old apartment door, and the contract that had changed everything. Then she lifted her chin. I do. The officiant signed the certificate and stepped back. Clara gathered the documents with careful precision. The ceremony had lasted less than 10 minutes, yet Lily felt as if she had crossed an invisible line she could never return from. Ethan extended his hand. Congratulations, Mrs. Ward. The title struck her like a jolt. She placed her hand in his, surprised by the warmth of his touch. His grip was firm, steady, almost grounding. Thank you, she said softly. There is one more thing, Ethan added. We will host a small gathering later tonight. My family and a few board members will be present. They expect to meet my wife. This will be your first public appearance. Everything depends on how convincing we are. Lily felt the ground shift beneath her. Tonight? Yes, Ethan answered. You will have a short moment to prepare. I will rely on you to support the narrative. My condition will be questioned, and some will attempt to challenge your place beside me. You must remain composed. His tone was calm, but Lily sensed the underlying urgency. The public test was coming sooner than she expected. I will do my best, she said. Ethan inclined his head slightly. Your best will be enough. Clara approached with a tablet. Miss Hart, your guests will arrive in approximately 1 hour. Please follow me to change into the evening gown selected for the event. Lily gave Ethan one last glance before turning away. For the first time, she wondered what secrets he was hiding behind that steady voice and unshakable control. Because tonight, she would step into a world where every smile, every touch, and every glance had the power to define her fate. And she could not afford a single mistake. The hour before the gathering passed faster than Lily expected. The stylists returned with another gown, this one a deep emerald color that shimmered under the warm lights. As they adjusted the fabric around her waist and pinned her hair into a soft twist, Lily felt the pressure building inside her chest, tight and unrelenting. This time, she knew the stakes were higher. Tonight, people with power, influence, and long memories would examine every detail of her presence. They would judge her worth, question her motives, and search for cracks in the story she had been asked to uphold. When Clara guided her toward the grand hall, Lily took a steady breath. Music drifted from the room, a soft classical melody that filled the hallway like a whisper. Voices overlapped in polite laughter. The doors opened, and warmth flooded over her. The hall glowed with soft gold light. Crystal glasses clinked, servers moved gracefully between guests, and portraits of the Ward family watched silently from the walls. People turned as she entered, their eyes lingering on her with curiosity and thinly veiled scrutiny. Ethan stood near the center of the room, cane in hand, posture straight and confident. His suit was impeccable, the black fabric contrasting with the silver tie that caught the light. He looked every bit the billionaire whose name carried weight in every room. When he heard her footsteps, he turned in her direction, maintaining his practiced performance of impaired vision. Lily, he said softly, almost as if the word carried more meaning than it should. Come here. She approached him, placing her hand gently against his arm as Clara had instructed earlier. The warmth of his sleeve grounded her, easing the tremor in her fingers. A man with graying hair and sharp eyes stepped toward them. Ethan, he said, offering a firm handshake. I heard the news. Congratulations, and this must be your wife. Ethan's smile was small but steady. Yes, this is Lily Ward. The man's gaze swept over her, examining everything from her posture to the ring on her finger. Welcome to the family, dear. Ethan has always been a private man. You can understand our surprise. Lily forced a polite smile. I understand completely. I am grateful to be here. Several guests drifted closer, each one evaluating her with subtle intensity. Questions came from every direction. How did the two of you meet? When did the relationship begin? Were you with him before the accident? How does he manage with his loss of sight? Each question felt like a test, and Lily answered with the grace Ethan needed her to show. She spoke calmly, smiled gently, and kept her hand on his arm, exactly as instructed. But beneath her controlled exterior, her heart beat in a frantic rhythm. A voice rose above the others, sharp and layered with skepticism. It is interesting, is it not, how quickly a woman appears when a man becomes vulnerable. Lily turned to see a woman in a silver dress step forward. Her expression was cool, almost amused. "I am Victoria Hale," the woman said. "A close acquaintance of Ethan's." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. "Victoria." She tapped her manicured finger against her glass. "Tell me, Lily, how does a man who can barely see know you are the one he wanted? It seems rather convenient." The room went still. Lily felt every pair of eyes settle on her, waiting for a misstep, waiting for her to crumble. Ethan spoke before she could open her mouth. "Victoria, that is enough." But Victoria's smile sharpened. "I am only asking what everyone else is thinking." Lily held Ethan's arm a little tighter. She lifted her chin, steadying the shake in her breath. "Mr. Ward chose me because he trusted that I would stand beside him with honesty and loyalty. Vision has nothing to do with that." The room murmured softly, surprised by her confidence. For a moment something flickered across Ethan's expression, something close to real admiration. He placed his hand gently over hers, a small gesture meant to reassure the crowd, but it sent a sudden warmth through her chest. Victoria's smile faded, replaced by a thin line of irritation. She gave a curt nod and stepped back into the group. The conversations resumed, but a new tension lingered. Lily could feel it pressing against her skin like static. Ethan leaned closer, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "You handled that well." Lily swallowed. "I did what I had to do, and you did it perfectly." She looked up at him, and for the first time, she wondered if he saw more than he admitted. Something in his posture, something in the precise way he turned toward her, it made doubt creep into her thoughts. If Ethan Ward was truly losing his sight, he was hiding it with remarkable skill. And if he was not, then everything she believed about this arrangement was built on a lie she had yet to uncover. After the gathering ended, the guests drifted out of the hall in polished waves of perfume and polite farewells. The last echo of laughter vanished down the corridor, leaving behind a heavy silence that clung to the air like dust. Lily stood beside Ethan until the final person left, her smile still fixed in place, even though her jaw ached from holding it so long. When the doors closed, she quietly stepped back, removing her hand from his arm. For the first time all evening, she allowed herself to breathe normally. The weight of the night settled onto her shoulders, and she suddenly felt exhausted, drained from the performance she had been forced to maintain. Ethan turned his head toward her. "You did well." His voice was steady, but something inside Lily finally cracked. The questions from the guests, the scrutiny from Victoria, and the constant reminder that she was living inside a lie began to coil tighter and tighter inside her chest. "Did I?" Lily asked softly. Ethan paused. "Yes, you held your composure. That is what matters." His answer struck her like cold water. She had hoped for something real, even a small acknowledgement of the pressure she had been under. Instead, he returned to the same controlled, emotionless tone he always used. Lily folded her hands in front of her. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" "Yes." Her voice wavered. "How blind are you really?" The question sliced through the room. Ethan's posture stiffened, the only sign that she had touched a nerve. He remained silent for several long seconds before speaking. "My condition has been progressively worsening," he said. "You already know this." "That is not what I asked," Lily replied, her voice trembling despite her effort to control it. "You move with confidence. You look directly at people when they speak. You pick up things with precision. I have been watching you all night." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You are imagining things." "I am not," Lily insisted, her voice rising. "What else are you hiding from me?" His expression darkened. "This is a contract marriage, Lily. You do not need to know everything about me." Her breath caught. The words landed deep, sharp enough to cut. She stared at him, unable to believe how easily he dismissed her fears. "So, that is how this works," she whispered. "I give up my life, my home, my name, and you decide what truth I deserve?" Ethan stepped toward her, but Lily backed away, shaking her head. The tenderness he had shown during the gathering vanished, replaced by the cold businessman she had met in the penthouse. "You agreed to this arrangement," Ethan said firmly. "You knew the terms." "I knew the terms of the contract," Lily replied, her voice breaking, "but I did not agree to be treated like a prop." Her words echoed in the grand hall, ricocheting through the space between them. For the first time, Ethan looked unsettled, his fingers pressed against the handle of his cane, gripping it tightly as if grounding himself. "This conversation is inappropriate. You should rest. We will discuss your duties tomorrow." "There it is again," Lily said, wiping at the corner of her eye. "Everything is about duties, responsibilities, appearances. What about honesty, Ethan? What about trust?" Ethan's gaze dropped, a flicker of something unreadable passing across his face, but when he spoke, his voice was cold. "You were not chosen for trust. You were chosen for necessity." The words shattered something inside Lily. She felt her throat tighten as heat rose behind her eyes. She had expected formality, perhaps distance, but not cruelty. Not this deliberate reminder that she did not belong in his world. She straightened her shoulders, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Thank you for making everything clear." Then she turned and walked out of the hall before he could say another word. Her footsteps echoed through the long corridor, shaking with each step. She did not look back. She could not. If she saw even a flicker of regret on his face, she feared she would crumble. When Lily reached her suite, she closed the door with trembling hands and pressed her back against it. The emerald gown pooled around her feet. The soft light of the room blurred through her tears. For the first time since signing the contract, she realized the truth. She was not just living inside a lie. She had married one. Lily barely slept. The mansion felt colder than ever, every hallway filled with echoes of words she wished she could forget. She rose early, changed into simple clothes, and packed the small suitcase she had brought with her. Dawn cast pale gold across the floor as she zipped the case shut. She could not stay. Not with a man who used power as a shield. Not with someone who believed she was replaceable. Not after hearing him say she was chosen for necessity instead of trust. When she carried her suitcase into the foyer, the butler looked startled. "Mrs. Ward, do you require transportation?" Lily swallowed hard. "No, I just need to leave." Before he could respond, a voice echoed from the staircase. "Lily." She froze. Ethan descended the steps slowly, his cane tapping lightly against the polished wood. His suit was unbuttoned, his hair slightly disheveled, as if he had not slept either. For the first time since she met him, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man struggling to keep something from slipping through his fingers. Lily steadied her breath. "I am leaving, Ethan." He paused at the bottom step. "We need to talk." "There is nothing left to discuss," Lily said softly. "You made everything very clear last night." She turned toward the door, but Ethan stepped forward, his voice firmer. "Lily, wait." She stopped, but she did not face him. Ethan exhaled. "What I said last night was wrong." Lily closed her eyes. "You meant it. That is what hurts the most." "No," Ethan said quietly. "I said it because I was afraid." His admission hung in the air. Slowly, Lily turned. Ethan lifted his chin, meeting her gaze with surprising steadiness despite his performance of impaired sight. "I have spent years surrounded by people who want something from me," he continued. "I built walls. I used distance. I used control. When you challenged me last night, I felt those walls crack, and I did not know how to react." Lily's voice trembled. "So you attacked me instead?" "Yes," Ethan said, "and I regret it." He took another step toward her. "There is something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you from the beginning." His hand tightened around the cane. "My eyesight is not gone." Lily's breath halted. "So it is true." "Yes," Ethan admitted. "My vision is damaged, but not lost. I exaggerated the severity to keep the board from forcing me out. I believed a marriage would stabilize everything, and I used that lie to create the arrangement." Lily felt the sting of betrayal all over again. "Why tell me now?" Because last night I realized something, Ethan said, his voice unsteady for the first time. I chose you out of necessity, but I fell for you out of truth. Her heart pounded painfully. She shook her head. Ethan, this entire marriage is built on lies. He stepped closer. Then let me rebuild it with honesty. Before she could respond, he reached into his coat and pulled out the folded contract. Without hesitation, he tore it straight down the middle. The sharp rip echoed through the foyer. Lily gasped. Ethan, this agreement is over, he said, his voice firm. Not our marriage, not what we could become, just the contract that kept us apart. He dropped the torn pieces to the floor. You deserve more than a deal, Ethan said. You deserve to be chosen for who you are, not for what you can provide. I should have seen that sooner. Lily stared at him, her chest tightening. The sincerity in his voice, the rawness in his expression, this was the man she had wanted to see, the one hidden beneath the steel exterior. Lily, Ethan whispered, do not walk away. Not when I am finally ready to tell you the truth. Tears welled in her eyes. Ethan, I do not know if I can trust you. You should not, he said. Not yet, but let me earn it. He extended his hand toward her, palm open, vulnerable in a way she had never seen. Stay, Ethan said. Not because of the contract, not because of duty. Stay because you choose me. Lily looked at his hand, then at the torn contract on the floor, and slowly, carefully she let her fingers settle into his. A quiet breath escaped her, carrying the first fragile note of hope. For the first time, their marriage felt real. Lily's hand rested in Ethan's, light and uncertain, as if the smallest movement could break the fragile peace forming between them. The torn contract lay scattered across the polished floor, its pieces reflecting the soft morning light. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air felt still, suspended between everything they had endured and everything they had yet to face. Ethan was the first to break the silence. I know I hurt you, he said, his voice low and steady, and I know an apology will not erase the damage, but I want you to know that I am finished hiding. From you, from myself, from everything. Lily swallowed hard. She wanted to trust him. She wanted to believe that the man standing before her was not just a billionaire built from power and control, but someone capable of honesty and vulnerability. Someone capable of love. Ethan, she whispered, I did not enter this marriage expecting affection. I knew what it was. But somewhere along the way, I started to hope for something more. I just did not know if you wanted that too. He stepped closer, his movements careful but intentional. I do, he said. I want something real with you. Not the performance we showed the world. Not the contract we pretended was a foundation. I want a life with you. One built on truth. Lily's eyes softened. And your vision? Ethan breathed deeply. I will tell the board the truth. I will face the consequences. But I will not keep using a lie to hold my life together. It is time for me to take responsibility for the choices I made. She searched his face, looking for cracks, for hesitation, for anything that suggested he was still hiding. Instead, she found sincerity, warm and steady, shining through the man who had once used distance as armor. What happens to us? Lily asked. Ethan lifted her hand gently, holding it between both of his. That is up to you. I will not force anything. I will not pressure you. I want you to stay because you choose to stay, not because a piece of paper tells you to. Her breath trembled. I do not want to lie anymore either. You will not have to, Ethan said. Not with me. A soft knock interrupted the quiet moment. Clara stood in the doorway, her expression composed, but her eyes revealing a flicker of relief when she saw Lily and Ethan standing together. Mr. Ward, she said, the board has requested a private meeting. They want an update regarding your condition and your marriage. Ethan nodded. Tell them I will address everything personally. Clara bowed her head slightly. Of course. When she left, Ethan turned back to Lily. Walk with me? Lily nodded. They moved through the mansion side by side. Ethan no longer used the cane as a shield. Instead, he let it rest loosely in his hand, as if he finally understood he no longer needed to hide behind it. Lily walked close, her fingers brushing his arm from time to time, each touch grounding them both. When they reached the garden terrace, sunlight filtered through the trees. The fountain shimmered in the center, its water reflecting the sky like liquid silver. Ethan turned to face her fully. "I cannot promise perfection," he said. "I cannot promise I will never make mistakes again. But I can promise that from this moment, everything I give you will be real." Lily felt warmth rise in her chest. "Then I can promise something too," she said softly. "I am willing to build this with you. Slowly, honestly, one day at a time." A quiet smile touched Ethan's lips. He reached into his pocket, not for a contract this time, but for the wedding ring he had avoided placing on her finger during the ceremony. He held it delicately, almost reverently. "This time," he said, "if I place this on your hand, it will not be for the board, it will be for us." Lily extended her hand, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then I want it." Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, not as part of a transaction, but as a genuine promise. The moment was simple, pure, real, and as they stood together beneath the soft morning light, Lily realized something she never expected when she walked into that penthouse days earlier. She had stepped into a marriage built on lies, but she was choosing to stay in a love built on truth.